For a long time, creativity felt like one of the safest human territories. Machines could calculate, repeat, and organize, but creativity seemed different. Imagination, intuition, expression, the ability to make something that did not exist before. Now machines generate images, music, stories, code, voices, design, and even short films in seconds. Some say AI is becoming creative. Others say that it's destroying creativity. But before deciding whether AI is, expands, or poisons creativity, we need to ask first, what exactly is creativity and how AI influences our definitions of creativity? We assume that automation will take physical labor first, leaving humans free to paint, write, dream, kind of this romantic view of the Industrial Revolution. However, machines learn first to generate text, images, videos, music, language which is the fabric of culture, which is fabric of meaning in society. But we're still waiting on a robot that can fold our laundry basket or clean our dishwasher. That's crazy if you think about. I think a lot of people thought that creative, subjective work from artists, they will be the last on the queue to be fucked up by AI. But the thing is that AI is coming first for this kind of work, creative, intellectual, and the other kind of works like more manual work or even like special cares or maybe even like a plumber. I think it will take even a longer time for AI to come for this kind of jobs. And I think most of us were surprised with that. I think at least myself thought that, again, the creative, subjective works, they will not be the first to be automated. But this repetitive jobs taken by machines and factories and all of that. But yeah, here we are. So if we cannot define what creativity is, how can we know if a machine participates or expands or even poisons it? So on this episode, I would like to explore some well-known definitions of creativity and different types of creativity, and also share a bit of my personal experience so we can hopefully at the end of this episode have a better understanding, is AI creative or not? But before we jump into some definitions, I would like to explain how 01 Cast is changing and why I want to explore questions like this. So 01 Cast started 2024. I think we already have around 12 episodes interviewing a lot of people from the AI film community mostly. But and then the last year I was super busy with a lot of work and traveling, and I couldn't record more episodes. And I really wanted to start it again because it's something I truly enjoy doing, and talking to people, getting beyond the surface of social media and X and all of that. So I also wanted the podcast to become more personal and closer to subjects that I have in my mind, like creativity, psychology, philosophy, technology, culture, cinema, and how they collide around AI. And even as an AI filmmaker, I think that's pretty interesting how all these things now collide together. So image, photo, video, music, sound, everything that makes a film, but even beyond that. So if you're new here, I'm Odair Faleco. I've been working the creative industry for more than 20 years. And since 2022, I'm exploring AI tools applied to creative workflows. But I'm also a nerd, probably like you, who enjoy connecting ideas and testing them against experience. So, and of course, creating AI films too. But these talks are partly essays, partly collective therapy. Again, I think talking, it's very healthy. And also talking about this nerd stuff, you don't have so many people to talk about that. So yeah, here's Sunday evening, uh, 11 p.m. But here's starting the recording of this episode, which I did some research to produce, and glad to share with you. So I think again, this is also a way of this organizing my own thoughts and understand what I believe with other like curious people around here. So this is not a primarily weekly AI news or endless tool comparisons. Here I want to go beyond like the surface, investigate how AI changes the creative process, where agency moves, what becomes easier, what may be lost, and what is revealed about us. And I would like to make a disclaimer here. So it's not just because I use AI or even that I make short films with AI that I want all the art in the world created by AI. That will be terrible. That will be a disaster. And I say this in a lot of my talks. I think, again, it's just one more tool, one more way, one more media, one more new tech to create stuff. But just because I use it, I don't want everyone to use it and every film, every image, every sound to be created by AI. On the contrary, and I don't think that's going to happen the same way we have analog photography today, we have paintings on the wall. So I don't think that's going to happen. And so this podcast, not just pro AI, not like a nostalgic resistance. It's more an investigation and I'm really open to change my mind on the course of it. It's not like a blind optimism AI podcast, okay? And I want really to seriously investigate bright and dark sides of AI. And on this episode, we're gonna talk about it also about some dark sides on the creative industry of AI, because as a tool, like you have both sides, and again, I want to investigate both. So just this disclaimer. And to understand how AI changes creativity, we need a definition more useful than simply saying that creativity means like having ideas, right? So let's jump in. Let's start. So fasten your seatbelt and let's go this trip with me. Let's go. If we want to understand creativity, we can start with the cognitive science Margaret Boden. Her classic book, The Creative Mind, Myths and Mechanisms, is a book from the 90s, 1990. And she spent like decades researching cognitive science, AI, and she defines creativity through like distinct triad. That to be creative, an idea or artifact must be new, surprising, and valuable. Now, new and surprising, we are quietly fine. But she emphasized that valuable is where the real definition lives. Think of like this way: a computer algorithm could easily generate a completely unique random combination of 10,000 words that never exists in human history. Technically, it's new, but that doesn't make it like meaningful poem or even like art. Like image generation might produce something strange and like technically novel, but without intention, emotional or intellectual weight, isn't communicating anything like interesting. And we see a lot of this on this kind of mid-journey vibe images, right? And she reminds us that like value also is not just one dimension either. So things can get a bit more complicated. So for her to be valuable, this value, she also broke it in another three parts. So emotional or artistic value, so something that deeply moves us. So when you get very touched by film, or even you finally be able to draw something that you also wanted to draw, your training for you also. So kind of like emotional, artistic. Second is practical or intellectual. So like solving a real problem or shifting our perspective into something. And the third is social or humorous. So connecting people, making us laugh, making a joke. So emotional or artistic, practical or intellectual, social or humorous. And for her, creativity operates under like this three constant pressure. So make something new, make it surprising, but make it matter. But of course, there's always a catch. Value itself isn't fixed in stone. Like what's revolutionary in one era can be like trash for the other. A chair or a joke or indie film are judged by like completely different rules. Van Gogh, for example, died believing he was a failure. And the value didn't change. The culture catch up did and found value on that later. So yeah, there's always a catch, right? Which brings us to our core rule. New is not the same as creative, and surprise still requires context. So even if an output is new, surprising, and valuable, we still have to ask the ultimate question. New to whom? Continuing with the Margaret's Boden work, The Creative Mind, she introduces a distinction that completely changed how we judge creative acts. The line between P creativity and H creativity. Yeah, sorry for all these names, but I'm gonna explain. It's not so complicated. So, P creativity stands for psychological or personal creativity. This is an idea or discovery that is brand new or deeply meaningful to the person who has it, even if millions of people had thought about it before. And age creativity stands for historical creativity. This is an idea that is generally new in the entire recorded history of human civilization. For example, Einstein's theory of relativity or the invention of the printing press. To put this in perspective, imagine a young child working through a puzzle and independently discovering a geometric mathematical rule. The rule has been known to mathematicians for thousands of years. The child hasn't rewritten the history of mathematics, so it's not age creative, historical, or, but for the child's mind, the discovery is real, powerful, and genuinely P creative. And here's why distinction matters. This distinction matters. Creativity isn't only valuable when you produce an age creativity, big historical masterpiece. Personal discovery builds confidence, sparks curiosity, shapes identity, and fuels the lifelong desire of keep learning, keep growing, and keep creating. And now I'm finally getting AI also on the table because I think this is where AI gets deeply personal. Like the generative tools, they allow us to like code and build an app, something that you don't have the skill to do, or someone to compose a piano soundtrack for their film, or even create a short film itself. Again, and I personally always love cinema, and now thanks to AI, I can create experimental short film ideas that I had on my mind, on my drawer for a long time. And it doesn't need to be the best masterpiece yet. I'm learning, I'm exploring, and having the ability to do it, creating it for myself and sharing and learning more. This is kind of enough for me, at least for now. And I'm being happy also to have my works recognized in festivals and some awards. But that's not the point. The point is that I'm learning. I'm still developing myself, and I know many of you too. And for me, again, that's the point. It doesn't need to create a Picasso. We just want to play and bring our ideas to life. We are basically expanding our own creative horizon, and this kind of creativity is also meaningful. Like AI doesn't need to spit out like any masterpiece to fundamentally transform someone's relationship with their own imagination. Another provocation I would like to make, sometimes I think with myself, okay, if all these famous film directors which are against AI, if they were starting today, like me, like many of us, starting 2, 3 years ago, whatever, and they are really passionate about it, would they not use these tools to create a concept, to create a trailer, to create some still, to bring their ideas to life and to share their scripts or even pitch their scripts to get funding? It's very easy to criticize and say that everything is shit when you're already famous and full of power and money. And it's, I think some of them are already embracing it and open to it and even say that's the future, like George Lucas, that's inevitable. But that's not the point. The point is that, like, maybe on the same context, on the same cultural moment, you will also use it if what this tool was available to you to express yourself, like any other, like drawing in a paper, like doing a traditional film, like making gestures or dancing to explain what you meant. So, as I mentioned, I would like to bring other definitions from other scientists or researchers about creativity, to not just bring one from Boden's book. So, I would like to talk about some two other guys. One's called Kaufman and Beghetto, to break creativity down to four distinct levels. Yeah, a bit more of acronyms or names, but again, it's not complicated. I can explain, and I think it's good to look at least two different definitions. However, there are many. And also, we will talk a little bit about this further. There's also many types of creativity, like different, like creativity is multi-layered, not just one thing, but we're gonna get there. Let's examine the full distinctions that Kaufman and Beghetto made, because I think they can also expand our ideas here a little bit more. So James C. Kaufman and Ronald Beghetto, they developed a paper called the 4C model of creativity. Basically, they realized that dividing just on everyday versus genius is too simple. So they want to map like creativity across four layers instead of two. Basically, I think they took the two and broke them into two more. So let's start. Mini C, C at the letter C. So mini C is like the first on scale. So interpretative, like learning creativity. It's like this subtle personal moments of learning and like intellectual discovery, like a student interpreting a poem for the first time, or like beginner grasping like how a musical chord on the guitar works for the first time. You know, it's, you're learning, you're being creative, and it's like the subtle personal moment. So this is the first one, mini C. The second one, little C. It's like daily creativity. So everyday problem solving, like tweaking a recipe, creating like a game, improvised game for your kids, and improvising like something at home. This is also being creative, right? In Brazil, we even have a word for that. It's called gambiarra. Gambiarra is, you know, when your flip flop breaks and you put some clipping to like fix it, or you know, all these like creative improvisations you found. And this is very common in more poor countries, but not also. I have a book from a friend that it's just people took photos in Greece, so it's not just in Brazil. But yeah, so this is kind of the little C, the gambiarra. And so the third level, pro C, so it's the professional creative, the pro. So the person have like expertise to like 20 years of practice, so they dominate what they're doing, you know, like a 20 years architect, a designer, or even like a musician played for 30 years. So that's the third, the pro C, which is also being creative even as a way of life to pay your bills, right? And the fourth level, the big C, eminent or like historical creativity. So like rare, world-changing genius fucking recognize history that changes everything in the field, like Picasso, Mozart, Shakespeare, right? These guys, they are in another level of creativity, and not even always recognized when they're alive, but they definitely change the course of history in a way. So mini C, little c, pro C, and big C. And this framework like corrects a massive modern mistake when we discuss new technologies or AI, because people often make the unfair comparison of like putting a beginner using AI tool against a pro master of 30 years, right? Or demanding that AI will produce new big fucking Picasso before admitting its impacts on human creativity. So Kaufman and Beguero show us that creative expression exists on a continuum, and every stage has value. The $1 million question for the future of human culture. Could AI spark an unprecedented boom in mini C and little c creativity without ever independently achieving big C genius on its own? I don't know. Because at the end of the day, like hit a song, a scientific theorem, a film, a line of code, they don't ask for the same abilities, and they won't be replaced by the same tools. The thing is, creativity does not look identical in every field. Visual art may involve perception, composition, and symbolism. Music may involve melody, rhythm, timbre, improvisation, and interpretation. Mathematics may involve seeing a hidden pattern, reframing a problem, or finding an elegant proof. Science can be creative in choosing the question or recognizing that an apparent failure matters. Coding can be creative through architecture and abstraction. Design negotiates user function, accessibility, technology, and culture. Filmmaking combines writing, performance, photography, sound, pacing, editing, and coordination. So creativity may be less single talent than a family of related abilities. Basically, there's different kinds of creativity. The creativity for math, the creativity for music, the creativity for photograph, like visual, right? Me, for example, I really think visually. My thinking is very visual. I see a lot of charts and forms and diagrams and situations, which I use to like interpret abstract concepts. But there's a lot of research on that not everyone has this sort of like visual thinking, and not everyone even have the same experience from this voice inside their own heads. If we analyze this like more carefully, like a correct mathematical answer is not automatically a creative answer, is it? Or a performer make like create through interpretation, even without composing. Is it not being creative? So maybe you can take song that you like, but you do your own interpretation, your acting, your arrangements of chords on that. So this is less creative or still creative, right? And like a beautiful image is not like a scene. And a collection of scenes is not automatically a film. So just generating the assets, putting them without intention, without meaning, without curation, without a why, not the what. Like just doing that not necessarily is or isn't creative. And the other author, Boden, she also separates creativity by how a new idea emerges. So like combining, exploring, and transforming. These are like techniques to be creative, but not just by doing them you're necessarily creating something meaningful. Combinational creativity connects familiar ideas in an unfamiliar or meaningful way. So, like science fiction with family drama, or an Asian myth inside contemporary politics, biology applied to architecture, like biomimetics, musical tradition plays in a dialogue. So, much originality emerges from the relationships that were like not previously obvious. But random combination is not automatically creative. The connection becomes valuable when you reveal something, solve something, or create a meaningful tension between things. And here again, there's a hook for AI because Gen AI is extremely capable of combining styles, genres, references, and concepts, right? Batman in the style of Van Gogh, having an ice cream in Springfield, right? But the number of combinations is not the same as their value. So, like, why are you doing that? What's the point? What's the story? What's the message? And I think we see a lot of this into AI in general, like images, video, films. So basically, anyone can create anything, but not everyone is able to craft, like orchestrate something meaningful than just creating a series of images. And here again, I think the pro, if you take a filmmaker or a photographer who works for 20 years on the field, and some teenager, 16 years old, that just started his career, creative career, I think these people, they will create very different outputs using AI. So people think that you just go there, you press a button, the AI does everything, you just place your name there and say that you create that. Like, that's haters, what haters say. But it's not exactly like that. If you really want to create something conceptual with a story, with intention, if you're like treat that, if you use the tools as a pro and as a beginner with the same tools, they don't have the same abilities. And I think that's a fact. And who recognizes that two distant ideas belong together, and why? Humans with intention, talent, and meaning are still behind the tool, prompting the AI, curating and editing the results, connecting all the dots. Like, my computer is not here making movies by itself during the evening, generating the images, the scenes, the dialogues, and then I come here in the morning, there's a movie made on my computer, then I say, yeah, I like it or not. Then I put my name on it and post and go to a festival. That's not how it works. And I think, again, a lot of haters tend to underestimate and how it's to work with AI. And my assumption is that they never tried, because all the creative people that I know that are serious about it and give it a try, they get hooked by it, by the creative freedom you have. And I think maybe it's not even up to discussion this anymore, because everyone's using AI. That's the thing. It's not like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, right? So all the agency they are using for pitching, for mood board, for storyboard, maybe for internal materials, for not like for external broadcasts and stuff, but like we are using, everyone's using. It's like if you have an advertisement agency today and you say, we don't like this technology, we will not use Photoshop. Imagine what this is like 20, 30 years ago, right? Before, on the 50s, 60s, we were doing ads manually, right? Drawing. And then on the 80s, 90s, the computers came and was the same story, right? Like, there will be no work for illustrators or whatever, and now the machine will do everything. And that's not exactly what happened, right? And like, people who do not adopt the technology, on this example, Photoshop, they simply were not able to compete with someone who's adopting it. They cannot produce on the same speed or with the same price range. And I think something similar is happening to AI. We're still in the very early stages of it. It's like these computers from the 90s, then we need to go to the internet after midnight, right? Like, but it's this the change is very fast. But basically, I think any company or field which do not adapt AI in a way or another, they will lag behind. Not because they're stupid or whatever, it's because it will be hard to compete with those who are using it. So I think that's something to have in mind. But sometimes creativity does not join different worlds. It explores more deeply inside one existing world. So the T-shaped, right? You just go deep. So you thought that we were deeper on this ocean. Let's go a bit more deeper. So prepare your equipment. Let's dive. On the previous blog, I spoke about the combinatory creativity, right? How combining different things, maybe from different worlds, creating contrast, creating tension. It's one technique for creativity. Second one will be exploratory creativity. It kind of operates inside like existing conceptual space. So a genre, musical system, visual language, theory or set of rules. For example, a jazz musician explores within harmony, tempo, pacing. A filmmaker stretches horror without leaving the genre. A mathematician searches for consequences inside a logical framework. Like most professions, they do not transform, they feel every day, right? They refine, they extend, they discover new possibilities within traditions, within their current traditions of their field. And I think AI can explore an enormous possibility space and produce like variations a person may never consider, right? How many different prompts and versions you can have from the same thing. It's kind of infinite, right? It's this infinite potential AI in a way, right? But exploring more territory does not automatically mean understanding which discovery matters in the end. Again, meaning, motivation, curation, intention, putting everything together, right? I think AI is still, when we talk about at least film, does not do it by itself in terms of text. Maybe it's much better in language. It's kind of put the stuff together, but like most of the text that you would just take from the AI, it's not made. There's no craft on that. Like, I think, at least myself, I usually rewrite more than 50%. I use AI for a first draft. I use AI for brainstorming. And again, just explore new does not automatically mean understanding what really matters, right? So I think AI may be better at producing possibilities than understanding which possibility deserves a future. The third form is rhetoric. So we talk about combinatory, exploratory. The third, instead of exploring the map, it changes the fucking map. Transformational creativity changes the structure of a conceptual space. It modifies a rule so ideas previously considered impossible become possible. This is associated with like paradigm shifts, new movements, artistic languages. It does not merely produce another work in a genre. It changes what people believe the genre can be. A cultural transformation requires recognition, interpretation, conflict, continuation, and consequence, not only unfamiliar output. It's not as easy as it sounds, right? So, can AI independently transform a field completely upside down, or can it produce unexpected material while humans recognize, name, and develop the transformation, right? Maybe this is more, can AI truly create something new and revolutionary? I don't know, honestly, but in a way, yes, I kind of see AI as a new medium, not just a tool. So, for example, this on the 2022 2023, AI was creating all this like deformed and crazy morphs, or people with six fingers, right, with more teeth on their mouth and stuff like that. Maybe in 10 years from now, when we look to these images, they will be considered works of art, or like the first AI arts and stuff like that. It's just an example, but why not? I think when I say AI is a new medium, it's on itself. It contains on itself, right? And I think it's kind of language. And I think through artists, they come and they do something totally new with it that you can only do with that. And I think that's the point. And that's something when you create something meaningful as well and original, right? So I think AI and originality is a podcast on itself, which I want to explore what is original, what makes something original. But just now, briefly talking, I really see it as a new medium. So photography itself took many years to be accepted as a form of art in museums. Like in the beginning, it was not recognized as art. So you need photographers like Robert Frank and others to like do a body of work related to culture, maybe to war, post-war in America, or documenting American society. And a curator put all of that together and tell a story about it. Then photography started to be accepted on museums and be officially recognized as a form of art. So I see AI on a similar pathway to that. And photographers were they were also called lazy painters, right? So the painters, they were there 1 week to paint that sunset, and photographers went there, opened their camera in like 30 seconds, 1 minute. Maybe they make an exposition and they capture the photo, and photographers were calling them lazy, right? But this also transformed painting itself. So since photography started to just mimic reality, painters stopped painting reality as it was and started to paint more abstraction. So this influenced the course of history. So I'm sure AI is just one more step in this puzzle, and it's just one more chapter of that. Why not? I told you on the beginning of the podcast that I really like psychology and philosophy. And I was watching some Brazilian teacher, some philosophy class on YouTube. And she asked a question that really intrigued me. And I wanted to bring it here to the podcast. So have you thought, but what kind of work humans are already doing it before saying that AI is taking our jobs? Let's talk about it. What I want to say is that we worry that machines are entering human territory, like writing, composing, designing, coding, and even creating art. But humans have for a long time performed work that looks like machine. Like we copy information, resize designs, rename files, complete forms, follow scripts, and produce endless like variations. Even creative careers contain like adaptation, correction, exporting, versioning, coordination, and repetition. So perhaps we should also ask, like, why did we organize so much human life around tasks better suited for machine? And of course, not all of work, all of it's like that, but a lot of work that we do could be done by machines, right? A lot of it is repetitive, the bureaucratic. For example, even coding itself can be seen as tedious and a repetitive task. I know that there's a lot of good developers that have passion for coding. That's kind of art for them. I get it. I know a little bit of coding and I get it. But coding is kind of stuff that I think will be, and that's what we are seeing now with vibe coding, right? Can be done much better and much faster for machines. I know that AI code is still very dirty, hard to understand, and there's a lot of bugs, but still, this is just a matter of time. A lot of what we do, even like a lot of work of what accountant does and other professions, it's like a machine, kind of. Again, now AI is already writing most of the code produced in the world, and that's crazy, and that changed very quick. And again, myself, I'm vibe coding some websites, so I'm a UX designer, and I work in this for more than 15 years. And it's I always wanted as designer to just design and just make it work like a prototype in Figma, but have the code. And we are almost there, because I think that's how it should be for me as designer. I just want to explain the rules, how it works, and I would like AI to write the code, right? And I think this is great, and it's crazy, and the world will get very different. The job market will get very different on the next 2, 3 to 10 years. It will be crazy. But the thing is that we fear that machines are becoming human, while rarely asking why humans have spent so much modern life behaving like machines. I work in the creative industries for more than 20 years, honestly. Like, I started as like art assistant, designer assistant, then junior designer, then became designer, then I became senior art director, creative director, then I got specialized in user experience. And since I started experiment with AI in 2022, end of 22. My first project, I tried to make a music video for my band, and it's called The New Horizons Earth, if you want to check on YouTube. And I was really hooked by the creative freedom I could have to choose the scenes and create the story that I had in my head already. And yeah, I was really hooked. And the machine did not suddenly supply me with like brilliant ideas. Like, it allowed ideas trapped in documents, sketches, like mood boards or on my mind, to move away from my mind to the real world. And watch films I made with AI on festivals, on big cinemas around the world for still feel surreal to me. And I haven't had the pleasure to see it a few times in very big cinemas. And it's crazy because I made mostly of the film alone, just with my laptop on my living room. And I think that's still, for me, it's still mind-blowing. And talking a little bit here about my personal experiences, I think it's something I can add to the podcast. And I always loved films, I think like many of you. And for years I wanted to make films, but of course equipment, location, actors, crew, schedule, VFX made most of the ideas I had, or crazy ideas I had, impossible. AI gave me access to transform my ideas into like experimental short films, and ironically made me want to learn more about writing, directing, editing, cinematography, sound, rhythm, performance, and character. I know that make an AI film and a traditional film are very different processes. I'm not saying they are the same. They have different natures, but the final result, it's very similar. Both are moving images with sound made to share a story with an audience, right? So I think for me, the experience of cinema is still the same, right? It's the director who wants to think he has want to share a story that he thinks is worth to share with the world, and an audience that wants to go to a room or connect to a screen and disconnect from the reality for around 2.5 hours and be transported to another reality and be moved, learn something new, be transformed after watching the film. So when we zoom out and look to this cinema experience, does it really matter that it was made with AI? Of course, matters in a way. If you look to the job, to the what a real actor can do, and I'm not neglecting that. But if we look and be a bit skeptical and zoom out a little bit and look to the essence of things, the experience of cinema is still the same. And AI did not reduce my curiosity about cinema, it intensified it. So the more I could make, the more I discovered how much I needed to understand about cinema. And I think this is why I see AI filmmaking as connected to traditional cinema, but not identical to it. Maybe I can talk a little bit about it. So yeah, I see AI filmmaking as a new category of moving images creation related to traditional cinema, but different from it, like a branch, a variation of it. In the same way we have live action and 3D animation, for example, it's just a kind of way of doing it. And I think like live action organize the physical reality and record through the camera, and of course again you have the human factor of the actor and happy accidents and all of that and the acting. But I don't think cinema is just about cameras, right? Cameras is just one aspect of it. And I think AI filmmaking may begin with our inner subjective worlds. It's like this inward camera, like a camera instead of like your eye that is pointing out. It's like your inner eye, like looking inside to your mind. So to your dreams, your imagination. Again, all the stories and this voice and this stuff we have in our heads. I think AI is great to capture that. So we need to convert that into language. That's the funny part. And then materialize that on the screen again, bring from the inner screen to the outer screen. And the border is also hybrid as well. And AI films can use actors and photography. Traditional films can increasingly use AI as well, right? It's a ping pong. I think not better cinema, cheaper cinema, or mandatory future. Another production method with its own possibilities, limitation, ethics, and craft, like, again, many others. And the creator still must speak the cinematic language. So on both practices, I see cinema as a language, and a lot of people use these terms, right? And it takes time to understand this language at the same time that takes time to understand any other language. It's like a grammar. There is a grammar into it in a way. And on the same way, like a poem, it's like a visual poem. You can write it and combine in many different ways, and subjectively, metaphorically, and stuff. So I think once you speak the language, you will do a great job with traditional cinema, of course, if you have this experience, and also with AI. I mean, in terms of like writing the story and imagine the story, right? The best thing with AI is that you can also produce yourself and not just live in your imagination. And also you can use it to pitch your feature film idea, to create a trailer of your film, to pitch it, to visualize it, or to create a deck. AI can also help, I think, traditional filmmakers who are open to it to sell their ideas and maybe produce that film that they always dreamt to. So did AI made me more creative or just more productive? When I say I never felt so creative before, I need to be precise. Like the curiosity, reference, obsessions, taste, and desire to make films and create art, it's always there for me. It was always there. The change was my ability to act on them. So I think here that's a good thing about AI. So AI reduced the distance between imagination and experimentation, right? Then I have this idea in my mind, I have this image in my mind, now I have it on the screen. And it let like us test ideas, like cross disciplines, fail faster, see possibilities. that have maybe will be abstract or missed without AI. This leverage also creates danger. Like 200 generated images can feel productive even when no meaningful decision has been made. I think the thrill of possibility can replace commitment as well, in a way. And AI can amplify curiosity, but also cliche, laziness, indecision, insecurity, and fear of committing. More options make curation, taste, and cultural background even more important than before. It's like when you go to the Ripster restaurant, there's only 3 options. You choose it very quickly. And you go to the fancy restaurant, there's 45 options on the menu. You don't know what to order. The paradox of choice. AI complicates that. I really think that all the experience you collect before the age of AI makes you what you know even more valuable than before, not less valuable. The leverage in the age of AI, it's still human. And I think also this is a very big misconception a lot of people do. They think that all their knowledge from the past is useless, but on the contrary, it's very valuable. If you know what to prompt, how to prompt, if you know what you want, you don't need to know how to prompt. You know how to direct the scene, the light, the color, the angle, the reason why you want it like that. This brings us back to that uncomfortable question. Can the machine itself create art? And the answer, of course, is it depends. Where creativity and art are located? In the object, in the process, in the maker's intention, on the relationship between work, context, and audience, culture? Many things, right? It depends on many things. If creativity means new, surprising, and valuable ideas, AI can participate. If it means combination or exploration, AI does so at scale. If it means producing something an audience experience as beautiful, disturbing, or even moving, maybe AI can already do that too. You can watch a $20 million high production film and fall asleep, and you can watch a short film that a nerd made on his bedroom and cry. If creativity requires lived experience, desire, consciousness, or understanding, meaning, the answer is far less clear, I think, right? Does an AI model need to experience grief to generate an image that makes someone grieve? Does the emotion belong to the machine, the human director, the culture in the training or material, or the viewer? Or maybe all together? A machine may produce something that functions as art without necessarily being an artist in the human sense. Difficulty can contribute to meaning, but difficulty itself is not meaning. AI creators often say the human remains the orchestrator, right? That's true. But orchestrator cannot become a magic word. One person can enter a vague request, accept the first result, and claim authorship, right? And you can do this with AI today. You can just create an album cover and say, I made this album cover. Yeah, you can do that. Another person may spend months researching, writing, developing characters, building visual language, rejecting possibilities, editing, directing performances, and designing sound and color, pacing. Both use AI, but their creative process are not the same, right? Can we judge it in the same way? The human contribution should appear through consequential decisions, I think. Why this subject, form, image, rhythm, and sequence? Why this and not that shot? What am I looking for and why? Selection can be creative, but not every selection is profound. A prompt can be part of directing, but writing a prompt does not automatically make someone a director, right? I think the important human contribution is not simply the presence, It's consequential judgment, meaning and intention behind the work, and of course, context, culture, momentum, and much more probably. And turns out that AI does not give one final answer. It forces us to separate ideas compressed into the word creativity. AI forces us to separate creativity from technical execution, novelty, productivity, professional employment, authorship, consciousness, historical recognition, and the final object. AI can expand access while displacing labor, stimulate learning while encouraging shortcuts, increase agency while creating dependence on platforms, generate novelty while reproducing cultural averages. It can help one person become more expressive while allowing other to avoid developing point of view. There is no single effect because there's no single creative process. Tools do not determine culture alone. Incentives, education, labor, platforms, and communities matter a lot. Even like now we see more open source models, which I think it's LLMs and also image and video models, which I think is good. So we are not so dependent on these platforms. I think AI can participate in creativity without making every output creative and without making the machine equivalent to a human artist. So after all these definitions, investigations, aspects, why do I personally think creativity is? If you arrived here so far on this journey, thank you for being here with me. Creativity may not be one mysterious object hidden in the mind. It's a relationship between imagination and constraint, novelty and value, personal intention and cultural recognition, possibility and judgment. Creativity has many different layers. It's not just one thing. AI can enter many parts of this relationship, as we saw in this episode. It can combine, explore, propose, accelerate, and even surprise, right? How many times you have an idea for a scene, but what AI gives you, this is better than I expected. It can give creative leverage to people who lacked access, for example. It can also encourage dependency, disengagement, and cultural noise, or maybe even the AI slopes. And as I told on the beginning, I really want on this podcast investigate good and bad sides of AI. AI did not remove my creativity, it gave it new territory. Through making, I became even more curious, not less. And I think this also should be considered when talking about this technology and creativity. So maybe creativity is not disappearing, it's just moving. The question is not only whether machines can create, of course they can. It's whether we use them to become more intentional, curious and expressive, or just simply more productive. So as AI takes over technical execution, writing code, generating charts, musics, human creativity shifts entirely from technical skill to taste, which also require technical skill, but taste, judgment, context. The human's no longer just like the draftsman. The human, it's also the editor and the curator. This is very important for the AI age, this kind of shift, right? So not because just I use AI to create short films that I want all creations in the world to be made by AI. That will be a disaster. We still have paintings on the wall. We still have people doing analog photo and listening to vinyl records. So tools change every decade, but human craft will never disappear. That's what I believe. So it was a long journey. Just a quick recap of some important distinctions I see. Creativity is not the same as productivity. Novelty is not automatically originality. Generating material is not complete creative process. Repetition is not always meaningless. And automating the labor does not automatically liberate workers. Something may function as art without its producer being an artist in the human sense. I would like to give a final question, if you would like to interact and drop your comment. Since you start using AI, do you feel more creative or just more productive? I would love to hear from you in the comments. So this was the 01 cast number 13. As I said, bringing back the podcast that was off for last year. I still would like to keep the interviews with AI creators, but I also want to bring more about this nerd stuff I like, and like philosophy, psychology, behavior, culture, and bring more of this personal interest on the podcast and discuss and learn together. So if you like this episode, if you learn something new, if you think that's value on it, please share with one friend that you think you may like. This really helps my work reach more people and support the podcast. Also, if you like to follow to receive other episodes and rate the podcast or like the video, I will be really happy. And there will be more content coming soon, and stay tuned. Thank you so much, and see you in the next episode. To know more about 01 Cine, go to 01cine.com. Instagram is 01cine_AI. My name is Odair Faleco. On Instagram, Odair_Faleco. See you next time.